Okay, Mike, I'm live. I'm just a minute or so early. Hi, Mary. Hi, everybody. Good morning and welcome. Pink Mouse Sisters in the kitchen. I'm a little bit early, so my clock's just now chiming. We'll give it another few seconds and let this music go off. Hope everybody's doing well today. It's overcast here, but it's still a beautiful day. Y'all may notice that I'm by myself today. My sister Mary has so much to do at her house. For those of you who have hosted a get-together at Christmas or any other time, you know how much work is involved in it, and it is a lot of work, and Mary likes to make sure everything is just right with the yard and the house and the porch. So she has a lot to do. She really did not want to miss today, but she told me to tell y'all hi, and she'll be back tomorrow. We'll be at her house tomorrow. When we travel to and from each other's house, because it's 55 miles, and that might not sound like much, but I remember several years ago, I was working for a company out of Dallas, and she came down here they would come in, because we work from home, they'd come periodically and, ride with you to to the stores and everything. I was a supervisor, and I supervised a field team putting advertising in stores. And I told her, I said, it's going to take longer than what the miles say, because you're going through these little towns, and these speed limits change 4 or 5 times. And I warned her, I said, now be careful going through them. And sure enough, she got pulled over because she wasn't watching the speed limit. And she told me, she said, well, you were right. So 55 miles on the interstate, you can get there in 45 or 50 minutes unless there's a backup. But in small places like East Texas, it takes an hour and 15 minutes with no stops to get from our house, from her house to mine, and vice versa. So it's about 2.5 hours of driving time, and then plus our filming. So it's a pretty much an all-day thing. And I just felt like that, and she did too, that she really needed to be home. I wanted her to be here, and I miss her. But anyway, we all love Mary, and she'll be back with us soon. So y'all bear with me today. I'm by myself, but I'm making something that our mama made every year at Christmas. It's one of our favorite cakes. It's a cherry nut cake. So I've got, try to keep my stuff together over here so I don't have to be moving around too much. So I'm set up here at the counter. I am cooking this, and for our members, y'all will see on the recipe that I said 2 9-inch cake pans or 3 8-inch. Y'all know I use professional cake pans. They're 3 inches deep. I'm not making these layers deep because I'm kind of making it like Mama did. But I am making 3 layers. So I've got 2 pans fixed, and I'm going to do the other one here. I just use Crisco. I do not use flour. I know that people are afraid to do that, but I've baked thousands of cakes, and this is what I do. I use Crisco, and so I've got that greased real good. And be generous. Don't be afraid you're going to put too much in there. And then I use parchment rounds. You can cut your own. But because I bake so much, I buy mine. They're just so much easier. And because you've got that shortening in there, it's going to stick. And these have the little flaps on the side. I just give that another quick whirl with my paper towel here with Crisco on it. And these are the rounds that I put on the edges, and these are 8-inch rounds. sometimes I cut them and sometimes I don't, but I cut these because it just seemed like they wasn't sewn right. But if you'll notice, they just stick right to that pan because it's got shortening in it. So I just give that a little deal, and then I keep Crisco in a little container, so I throw that out. So I have this and I don't have to keep reaching down to get my Crisco container. So I've got the pans ready. I'm going to set these aside, and you want to make sure if you use parchment paper, you want to make sure it's straight because it'll make the cake have a crease in the cake. So I'm going to set that over there, and I've got the oven preheated to 350. And I've got my egg whites out, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I'm going to go ahead and cream my shortening. And I use Crisco, and that's what I like to use. Molly, seems like years ago, of course, they used what they could get, but I think she used a brand called Miss Tucker's or something. Before I do that, I'm going to do one more thing before I do that. Let me move that here. In this cake, you've got chopped maraschino cherries, and you've got chopped pecans. And you'll notice I've got them both chopped finely. And then you need to, you kind of need to mix this with some flour to keep it from sinking to the bottom of your cake. And I did all this yesterday because I made a cake yesterday, so it would be baked and I could put the frosting on it today. So these are toasted and chopped pecans, and I'll show them to you in a second. They're not, it's not pecan meal. Pecan meal is very, very fine. But they are chopped fine, and I just use the food chopper to chop those. And I'm going to mix that in with some flour, and then I'm going to put my cherries in here. And if y'all have ever cooked with maraschino cherries, you know they have a lot of liquid in them. So there's going to be a little bit of liquid in there. And these are chopped pretty fine because I don't want big pieces of cherry in the cake. And I'm just going to put this in here. And then I'm going to put the rest of my flour in there and set that aside. This cake is a scrumptious cake. And this is one you can make ahead of time. You can make this probably at least a week or more ahead of time. I know Mama, this is one of the first cakes she made, maybe even 2 weeks ahead of time if you got a cool place to cook it. So I put the rest of my flour in there, and I'm just going to, dirty workspace, I don't like dirty workspaces. I'm just going to mix this together, and it smells so good. I love cherries. I've always loved cherries, and I had a big jar in the refrigerator for a long time, and I decided I would discard that and get a new jar, so I got a new jar at Sam's, so I'd have fresh cherries to start with. And you can see that it's just cherries, finely chopped cherries, finely chopped pecans, and flour, and I've got that mixed together. And if some of you didn't hear me say, the reason you mix that with flour is to keep it from sinking to the bottom. If you've ever made a cake and you put nuts or candy in it, orange slices will do the same thing. You have to coat them. It will all sink to the bottom, and then you run a risk of it getting too brown or all of the pieces being on the bottom and not throughout the cake. And this is a beautiful cake, and it needs to have this all incorporated in the batter. So we'll set that aside. Now, y'all know when you make a cake, you got beaters on, so I'm gonna try to get this done as quick as possible. I'm gonna go ahead and break my eggs so I don't have to stop to do that. And it's really it's not a difficult cake batter. You can use any cake recipe that you want to use for this, but I just used the one that Mama used all our life, and it's, you know, basic ingredients. The one thing that's different about this, it does take cake flour, and some of you may not keep cake flour on hand, so if you don't and you start to make it, we'll go get you a box of cake flour. I used all I had, so I'm going to have to replace my box. So I've got my eggs cracked, so I can hopefully do this with one hand. I've got my sugar ready, my milk ready. In this container, I've got the flour, the cake flour, and it does need to be sifted. I've got baking powder and salt. So all my dry ingredients are in here, and I've got them mixed up real good so you don't get a bite of nothing but salt or baking powder. You don't want that. Okay, so I've got the sugar here, got my eggs cracked. Let me get my beater on my mixer. I had this over there at the other counter. I already had my other mixer hooked up, but then I decided I would keep from moving around too many times because when we get the cake in the oven, I'm going to move over there to do the 7-minute frosting. I'll go ahead and start pouring my sugar in. Try to make this as fast as possible. Okay, I'm going to just do my eggs one at a time, add them one at a time. Mix them up real good. You always want to scrape your sides of your bowl down to make sure you got everything in it. I'm going to have to turn this off because I could probably add this vanilla, but I might wind up pouring a whole bunch in it, and I don't want to do that because this is our double strength vanilla, and I don't want to wind up and pour twice as much as I need. So I'll just take that off just a second. I don't like to leave vanilla in my spoon. There's always a little bit in the bottom. And we're going to use a clear vanilla for the frosting. I didn't get that out of the cabinet either, but I will. I'll get it out. Okay, now after I get this mixed up, I'm just going to alternate the dry mixture with milk. I'll get this as close here as I can. I'm just adding like 2 or 3 spoonfuls at a time. Pour a little bit of milk in it. This is just whole milk. Really doesn't take long to make this if you got your prep work done first. Make sure I get all of that. Okay, I hope that wasn't too bad. I'm gonna just move this out of the way, get some of this out of the way here so I can have room for my pans. Some of these dishes out of the way. Okay, give me just 1 second. Okay, so now I'm going to fold, that wasn't too bad. I'm going to fold the cherries and pecans in here that I have mixed with the flour. And I want it all in there. I don't want to leave anything out because that is just a big pet peeve of mine, for people to leave tablespoons full of stuff in the bowl. I don't like that at all. So you'll see this batter is thick, and I'm just going to make sure it all gets mixed up real good. And then we'll get over there and get some frosted made. See how beautiful that is with those cherries? I can't hardly reach that. All right, now I'm not gonna measure this. I'm just gonna eyeball it. I'm pretty good about getting the correct amounts in it. If I'm not, well, if I don't get it just right, well, I'll take some out of a pan and kind of even it out. Now, I could probably do this in 2 of these cake pans, but I'm not, because like I said, Mama made her layers. Of course, she didn't have professional cake pans. She had the old-timey cake pans. So hers wasn't very thick at all. And, but she made hers, you know, with that. So, all right, I pretty much got all that out of there. We're going to get this in the oven, and I usually set the timer about 25 minutes to start, but I did last night or yesterday when I made the other cake, and it took a lot longer than 25 minutes, so I'm probably going to set it for about 35 minutes and then check it. So what I'm doing is I'm just spreading this out even, the batter even. Now it's not going to look like very much is in these pans because these are deep pans, but it makes a nice cake. And as soon as I get this icing going, and they got a little bit more in this one than I have in that one, then I'll show you. I'll bring the other cake layers in here that are already done and show them to you when we get started doing the when we get started frosting it. So I don't know how many people is going to have Christmas at your house. I know as families expand and get bigger, it gets harder and harder to meet at Mama's. But, and that's why every year we have our Christmas the Saturday following Christmas, which this year falls on New Year's Day. And everybody has always migrated to Mary's. Mary's everybody's mama, including mine. She's always, even though she's only 17 months younger than I am. Everybody just migrates to her house. They always have, kind of like Aunt Elsie after Daddy died, and everybody just kind of went to her house. That's just what we did. And we usually have some cousins there too. I don't know if we'll have any there this time or not, but we're going to have a big crowd. So I'm going to get this in the oven, but I'm going to show these to you. Now, a lot of people tap their pans to get air bubbles out. I don't think there's any in here because this is pretty thick. But I'm going to stick these in the oven. Then I'm going to move the camera over here so we can start our sugar syrup. And I'll set the timer. I hope that you can see all those beautiful cherries in there? That oven's hot. Okay, so I actually set the timer on 33 minutes is what I set it on. So let me see if I can get here to where you can see the pot. And we'll get this burner on here. I want to start the syrup before I start beating the eggs, because those egg whites are going to beat up really fast because I'm using my big mixer. So I'm going to start the syrup first. Get this out of the way. And so I've got my sugar in here. This is in my milk pot. Got the burner on. I'll pour my water in there. Then this is cherry juice and a little bit of color gel, food color gel. Now some people put that in their icing, wait and put it in their icing, but I'm going to cook it in here. And I'm not even going to measure this. This is white K-Row, or it's not actually K-Row, it's a store brand, but it doesn't matter. As long as it's not thin, I don't mind it being a store brand. I'm just going to do a couple of squeezes in here. I keep lots of K-Row on hand. I always use it during the year for different things. It seems like you always need K-Row. Now this will make your top hard to close because that's sugar and it will set on there, but I kind of wiped it off. So let's see, I need a little bit of salt in here. This is just a boiled icing. That gel didn't mix up real good. I'm hoping it doesn't. I'm hoping when that heat hits it, it'll make it smooth out a little bit. I may have to get my whisk out. In fact, I think I will. Go ahead and get it out just in case I need it. Okay, I got my mixer here that I'm fixing to start my egg whites in just a minute, but I want to get the sugar syrup started first. So I'm just going to do a couple of salt things in there. We've gotten some beautiful Christmas cards, and Mary and I want to thank y'all all, the ones that have sent them. We want to thank you so much. Got a sweet gift card from, I guess I'll wait and tell that when Mary and I are together. But it's very humbling for people to think about you at Christmas time. And so we thank y'all, every one of you. We thank you so much. Now, when this starts boiling, I'm going to scrape the sides down. But when it starts boiling, you do not want to mess with these sides. Those crystals that form on the side of the boiler, if you stir them in the syrup and that icing, it's going to be like little tiny hard beads, and it will break your teeth if you're not careful. So once it starts cooking, don't scrape the sides down. Where is Mary? Mary is at home working today. She's got a lot to do before our family Christmas, and oops. So anyway, she's at home working today. So everyone, she should be back tomorrow. We're going to be at her house tomorrow, so it won't be quite as much time for her tomorrow since she doesn't have to travel to my house. So that's where Mary's at today. She's at home. I'm going to see if I can get these little things dissolved in here. You want your icing kind of pink, even if it's just a pale pink, because that is what makes the cake, part of what makes the cake so pretty. Now once it starts cooking, it'll cook real fast. But I wanted to get it started first. I don't want my egg whites to sit, because if you do and then you go back and rebeat them again, they're going to deflate, and I don't want that. I see somebody got a bunch of snowflakes and snowmen. We don't get a lot of snow here in East Texas. We get really excited when we do. I always feel bad for the animals and for the people that have to work outside because in the cold. And also we want to mention again all the people that were affected by the tornado. My heart has just been so touched. It's just, it's devastating. We grew up in Tornado Alley, and just see the devastation that a tornado can do, and not just a tornado, but other things too that are nature related. And so many lives lost, and I've just read story after story after story, and just tears just rolling down my eyes about people that have lost everything, and it's very, very heart touching. So we want to remember all those people in our prayers. Their lives will never be the same, and though you can replace property, you know, not everybody has insurance. And for those people, it will be very hard for them starting over. And also, I wanted to mention this. I've thought about this several times, but I haven't mentioned this. We haven't mentioned this in a while. This is a very happy time of year for Mary and I, and for our family. And although we went through a very bad tragedy with our dad in November, it's a time of the year that people that have lost loved ones, they may not be happy. So keep that in mind when you're celebrating, that not everyone can smile this time of year. So remember those people. We choose to be happy, and y'all know I cry very easily when I'm talking about something like this. But just remember, if someone is grouchy or mean, or maybe they're not too kind when you're out shopping, you know that happens a lot. People want to butt in line or cut you off at a parking place or something, which is so trivial compared to people losing life and property. Keep in mind that those people may have something a lot deeper seated than just getting your parking place or getting ahead of you in a grocery store line or something. So try to be cognizant of that. I always wonder, because most of the time when people are being mean, or some people are just naturally mean, but for, you know, especially around this time of year, people get depressed. Maybe they don't have money to go out and buy gifts for people, which you don't have to spend money to show your love. And that's very important for us to convey that. There's lots of ways you can show love. You can babysit, you can go help somebody clean their house, you can rake their yard. I mean, there's so many things you can do that cost time, but that doesn't cost money. And I think people tend to forget about that. What about the elderly neighbor that you only see come out twice a week or a month or so? Go knock on their door and see if there's something you can do for them. Maybe you could pick up some grocery items for them when you're going to the grocery store anyway. There's just so many ways that you can be kind to people without having to actually go in your pocketbook. And kindness goes a long way, and people never forget that. They never forget that. Let me clean up my face here for a second, and I'll be right back. Okay, I remember one year, of course, our family home that we had, I gotta get this going here. It's slow go. I should have had this burner on earlier. One year back several years ago, before our family home was torn down, I would send Christmas cards to our old address, and I would tell them that we used to live there, and I just wanted to send them a Christmas card. And like I said, your neighbors, and when I say elderly, it's kind of comical because I kind of fit in that category, but I still don't, most days I don't consider myself elderly until my back or something starts hurting, or my legs where I have to sit down. But there are a lot of people in the world, and not even our age, that are not able to go and do like Mary and I do. And we know we're very blessed, and we don't want to ever take that for granted. But there are people, not necessarily, like I said, maybe not even our age, that would appreciate you showing a kind gesture toward them. So keep that in mind throughout this Christmas season. And goodness, I should have turned this burner on 5 minutes ago. I usually preheat my pots, and I didn't this time, and it's just taking a little bit longer. But this will get started cooking in a minute. Let's see if I can see anything on here while this is starting to cook, if anybody has asked any questions. And I might not be too good at this, but I'll check and see if I see something. Oh, yeah, we love cherries. We love cherries. I've got some candied cherries over there too that I'm going to show you that you can use on top if you don't want to run the risk of the maraschino cherries, because they do have juice in them, and sometimes they do tend to run on top of a cake. So you've got an option to use a candied cherry, which is really pretty. And I got something fun to show y'all too that I did last night that I worked on a little bit this morning. Any type of candy or goodies you make for Christmas, you can share. I'm not sure if you mean sharing the kind that we make. I make pecan sandies, which is my all-time favorite cookie, or sandies. I just call them sandies. It's something that I've made for probably 45 years. It's my favorite cookie, and it will stay fresh forever. The ribbon cookies that I made the other day, the sugar crinkles. I make date nut cookies, ginger cookies, shortbread. Let's see, what are some of the other cookies that I make? I'm going to make some sugar cookies and decorate them. I've got, Mike picked up a little thing on the counter, and he said, "What is this for?" And I said, "That's for my reindeer cookies." Don't lose it. They're going to be real cute. And then we make fudge, and try to make divinity. We make peanut brittle, and goodness, those are kind of things that we pared down to. In our younger years, Mike and I would make 75 or 80 different kinds of cookies and candy every year. We did the 12 Days of Christmas one year with an elderly friend of ours in the church, and her and her daughter both passed away, and neither one of them ever knew it was from us. We just, every day, we put things on her doorstep with her name on it. And it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of hard work because we had to do it at night so nobody would see us. But it was something that it was really fun. Okay. For all of you, or for those of you who are putting things on here to try to sell or promote another website, we do not allow any of that on our page. I know me saying that's not going to stop you. If you're trying to befriend our viewers, our followers, that is not who we are. So please quit wasting your time and quit wasting hours and quit doing that. It's not nice, and I don't appreciate it because it creates work for us to do. So quit putting links on here for us to have to delete, because they will be deleted. Okay, thank you. That's a beautiful batter. Yes, it is. Not because I made it. The cherries that I used in the cake are maraschino. They're not candied. That puts a little bit too much extra sugar in it, and so you want to use maraschino and not the candied cherries. But I am going to show you candied cherries that I'm going to put on the top when I decorate it. Okay, let's see here. What the kind of cake I'm making is a cherry nut cake. It's a cake that Mama made every year for Christmas all of our life. And the mixer, yes, it is PC. Let's see. On the recipes, for the people that are members, for all of you friends that are members, if you click on the picture or the title of the recipe, it will show you, that will bring the recipe up. So I've had 2 or 3 people ask that, and that's how you find the recipe. And it's www.pinkymosskitchen.com. That's our website. That's where you will find our cookbooks, our aprons, our kids' aprons, and our cups. That's where that's at, and also where you can become a member. And it is $5.99 a month, plus whatever tax is applicable in your area. Okay. I know everyone's looking forward to seeing family that comes home for Christmas, especially people that you don't see, your friends and family that you don't see often. And it's always a very exciting time. Okay, and Merry Christmas to everybody from Mary and I. Okay. All right, I think I'm almost to the point that this is going to start boiling here. I'm going to turn the burner up just a pinch. I had no idea it was going to take this long to get this to boiling. The sugar is still not quite dissolved, you can tell, but it's getting close. And once it gets dissolved, I'm going to quit stirring it. Okay. Mama had several cakes that she made every year. But cherry nut was one of them, and it was one of our favorite because it's such a pretty cake. It's a Christmassy cake, and it's good. Any cake that's got nuts or coconut in it, and the longer it sets, the better it is. It kind of marries those flavors together, and it's really delicious. Okay. And also, yes, it is a very busy time of year. Also, for everybody, and I know we said this before, but if any of y'all have joined any of the other Pinky Moss pages on Facebook, it would do us a huge favor if you would leave that group, because our page is public. It always has been. You do not have to join our Facebook page. So if you have joined one, you are helping someone that's robbed our videos. So please do us a favor and leave that group. We've reported it. There's several of them. We've reported it over and over and over. And if anybody is watching this, because they show our videos, if anybody is watching this and you're watching on a group page, you're watching on the wrong page. So I don't like thief. Mama always said if anybody steals, they do anything. You can't trust them for nothing. And I realize that what I'm saying is not going to have any effect on the people that do this. But for the people that are innocent, that are watching, that think you're on the right page, I'm hoping that you will leave those groups and come back to our real page. And remember to like our page. We want to thank everybody for all the stars that you give us. We don't mention that very often, but we do appreciate it. And my goodness, I've never seen syrup take so long to start boiling. But it's really close. It's just hadn't got there yet. And as soon as it starts boiling, I'm going to turn that mixer on, and then we're really going to have a lot of noise here. So if y'all want to turn your volume down when I turn that mixer on, you're more than welcome to, because I'll try not to talk too much while that's going. This is pretty clear. It's just a little bit being all the sugar being dissolved. I remember so many times on Christmas Eve, us going to Mom and Pa Lee's down there at the farm, and us rounding that last, coming down that hill, rounding that last curve before we saw the dairy barn, and knowing that it was going to be so much excitement. And this was, this was when if you got a gift that cost a dime or a quarter, you was thrilled to death of it. It really wasn't even about the gifts. It was just the excitement of being together with all the cousins and Mom and Pa and all the aunts and uncles. Okay, it's finally boiling. Hallelujah. All right, let's see here. Now once we've got this boiling, I don't think I needed that whisk. I have got egg whites over here in the mixer. I've had them to come to room temperature. So I'm going to start this. I'm using the egg whites out of a carton. If you do that, you need about 2 ounces for 1 egg. For 1 egg white, you need about 2 ounces of the carton egg white. I don't do that often, but it's a time saver, and I wanted whole eggs in this cake, so I didn't want to have to put the egg yolk in and then use that. I wanted a whole egg in it, so that's why I did that. So hopefully y'all can see this boiling here, that it's finally boiling. Finally. Now I am stirring it, but I'm not stirring the sides. And you want to get this to a consistency. See, it's just started boiling, but when it gets to the right consistency, there's going to be a thread, looks like a piece of thread that's going to drop from your spoon, and I'll show you that when it gets to this point. I'm going to put a little bit of cream and tartar in here. Well, I didn't get it out. And so I'm not going to put it in there because I don't want to have to. I usually put just a little bit of cream and tartar in the egg whites when they get frothy, but I don't want to have to get a ladder and get up there to get the cream and tartar out because I forgot to get it out. So sorry about that. I thought I went over my list, and every time you do that, there's always something that you forget, or at least that I forgot. So anyway, it'll be fine without it. And for those that don't know what cream and tartar is, it comes in a little bitty, that big, a little bitty spice container. I'm going to get my cakes in here and get them over here while that's beating, so y'all just bear with me here. And we're going to be doing some fun stuff in a few minutes. Okay, I turned my mixer up just a pinch. Let me check on my syrup here. but it will be soon. Starting to get thick, and it's starting to just get real close to the time that you're going to see a thread. I got my clear vanilla out. That's what I'm going to use to go in this icing. See, I don't need to turn a kind of brown color. You can see this. It's starting to get thick. It can drip a bit slower, but it's not quite there yet. See that my egg whites are almost beat stiff. So these are almost ready. I'm just waiting on the syrup. And I'm sorry that this syrup is taking so long to cook. It don't really seem like that long when you're doing it without a camera in front of you. thread, but it's just not hot enough to where I want it. So I'm going to have to put this just a tenth longer. I'm not talking much because I know this noise. You probably can't hear me anyway. I'm going to check this with the thermometer to see what temperature it's at because it's been cooking for a long time. You want it around 236, 240, somewhere up in there. And if you're using a handy thermometer, make sure the tip is not touching the bottom of the boiler. I can see the string is taking a little bit longer. It's almost ready. Take it over here and start pouring it in here. I'm going to pour it very slowly. pretty and pink it is? It's always hot. Got that hot syrup in it. I've already checked my cake and I set the timer on 7 more minutes. The block is done. I didn't think it would be, but I'm going to check it again in just about 3 minutes and see if it's done. I want this to be really thick, and that's why I'm keep beating it, because I want it to be more thick. Check this. This is a big mixer, so it's not a tilt head like my little one is. So in order to do it, I have to take it out of the bowl. But you can see that it's really nice and thick. So I'm going to add just a little bit of the clear Watkins vanilla, and then I'm going to beat that in there. And something's falling over there. I don't know what that was. I'm going to start beating it again because I want it to get beat in there real good. My cake tester. Okay, the cakes are done. Appreciate y'all so much bearing with me on this icing. You can see that it's just, that's how it should look. It should stand on the beater when you bring it out. So we're going to move over here, and I do want to show y'all one thing before I put these cakes in there. Now these cakes are fairly level. You can tell they are, But if yours aren't level and they have a dome on them, take a clean cup towel. It has to be done as soon as they come out of the oven. Just place it on top and put a little bit of pressure on your hands, and it will level that cake out. Now, just make sure you do that. You do it right after you get it out of the oven. Okay, I've got my cakes sitting over here. I didn't need to use the tester because I could tell they're done. And let me get my oven off. And then we're going to come over here. Now we're going to get to the fun stuff, since y'all have been so patient to listen to the mixers forever. Okay, so I've got my cake board here. And this morning, or last night actually, excuse me, I gotta sneeze. I was going to show y'all how I did these, but I'm sure some of y'all have probably already dropped off. But I made some little holly leaves with a cookie cutter, and I made these little holly berries just to kind of do a little decoration on top of the cake besides the cherries and the pecans. These are painted with edible paint, and they're I usually put these on red velvet cake, but I thought I would just show you these. When you're rolling fondant, you want to roll it so thin that you can actually read through it. And these are very brittle. They break very easy. So I made a whole bunch of them, extra ones. And you'll see my little holly leaf cookie cutter that I made these with. So let me set this aside here so I'm not keeping y'all on here all day. I've got some pecan halves for the top. I'm going to use some candy cherries for the top so they don't run down and get juice on the cake. And then I've got my cakes here. These are the ones that I made yesterday. I'm going to put just a little bit of icing on my cake board to let it stay down there. See if I can get that centered. And then I'm gonna just, let's see, did I get that centered? Sometimes you can't tell. This goes really fast. I'm not even going to put straws in it because my cakes are cold, so it's not like I've got to keep them from sliding or something. I'm using my Atico cake stand that you use to decorate cakes with. It's a turntable. It turns. So I'm not going to put any nuts or anything between this because this cake is full of nuts and cherries. If you want to, you can, but I'm not going to. And I'm stacking these like an old-fashioned cake. I'm not turning one way and one the other. I'm just going to do it like this. Now, I did put simple syrup on these cakes, and if y'all remember, simple syrup is equal parts of syrup and water, and it's just basically brought to a boil, B-O-I-L, boil, and dissolve, the sugar dissolved. You don't want to boil it over a minute, or if you boil it longer than 2 minutes, it's going to turn to candy. So you don't want to boil it. It's going to basically look like water. So when you're making simple syrup, and you can keep that in the refrigerator for a long time. Always make at least a pint at a time, and put it in a jar, and then just put it in the refrigerator. So that icing is so pretty, isn't it? I don't want to get too much on here where it's going to come off, so let me take some of this off here. My long offset spatula, I forgot to get it out, so instead of doing that, I'm just using a spoon. I have 2 of them, but I just didn't want to do that on camera. Let's dig through that drawer. So I'm just doing it with the spoon. Okay, here's the last one. So this is going to be a 3, you can see this is a fairly big cake. It's 3 layers. And if you don't want a 3-layered one, whoops, started using another spoon. make yourself a 2-layer one and ice the 3rd layer and take it to a friend. Or take it to a Christmas party or something. Now, I normally do the sides as I go. I didn't this time, but I'll get that some taken down over the sides. So you see this is a 3-layer cake, and this 2 ounces of egg whites is going to be more than enough icing to ice this cake. I don't know there. I'm used to putting straws in my cakes, and I didn't put one in this one. I hope I don't regret it. I'm going to have an offset spatula. I'm not used to, I'll just use a little one. I'm not used to doing this without this. This just makes it so much faster. So I'll turn the table in a minute and let you see how I'm doing the sides. I pile it up on top and then I just bring it down to the side, and that way it makes it real easy to frost the sides. Y'all don't leave me till we get to the top and you can actually see what this cake looks like when we get through with it. This is a beautiful cake for a Christmas party. Really, really pretty. In case anybody is wondering about the egg whites being raw, that hot syrup cooks the egg whites, so you don't have to worry about that. If any of you concerned about that, there's nothing to be concerned about. That was boiling hot syrup that I put in there, and it totally cooked the egg whites. I think I need my bowl scraper instead of the spoon. That spoon's not working too well. I usually pile so much icing on here that it's just thick and icing, but I'm trying my best not to put so much on it that some of it will fall off. I don't want that. Now, for our members that read the instructions, and I told y'all to use a clock face as your placement for putting the cherries and the pecans on top. It's easier that way for me to do, like, you know, I guess you're kind of eyeballing it, but it's easier if you just kind of look at it like a clock face. You can do the sides however you want to. You can do it and swirl it with a spoon. You can swirl it with an offset spatula like I'm doing. Now Mama would probably, just had hers just smooth. And now I'm going to show y'all what I mean by this. I'm going to put a cherry. These are candied cherries that I'm doing here. I'm going to put it 12, 3, 6, and 9. And then I'm going to put another one. I may have said put more than this, but you can judge by the size of cake that you're cooking however many cherries you want on the top of it. Okay. I'm going to make a little flower. So basically I'm putting 3 pecan halves around each cherry. Actually may not be able to get 3 around them, but you can get as many as you can. And this doesn't have to be any certain way. You can do it. Some of y'all are probably a lot more artistic than I am. You can do it however you want to do it. But this is just how Mama did it. guess I got that a little closer together than I had planned to. But I'm just going to add, for some color, I'm going to add some of these green holly leaves. And these are dry, you know, they're already dry. And actually, you don't even need the berries because you've got the cherries on here. But it just kind of makes it a little bit dressier. And the way you get these bent like this, after you roll them out, you fold them over like a rolling pin, or I folded some over this, just folded them and let them dry like that, and that way they dry different shapes. They'll have like a little crinkle in them, or you know, however you want to do them. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just however you want to do it. So I'll put one here. I'll put one here. Now I have some holly leaves left, which I knew I would. I knew I'd have some left. But here's your cherry nut cake. And I'll put a cherry in the middle. Whoops. Hand accidentally touched the cake. So if y'all can see that, there's my cake. There's my cherry nut cake. My sweet mama made many of these cakes, so I know this took longer than we usually take, but I hope that you enjoyed it, and thank you for having patience while the mixer was going. So I love y'all. Mary loves y'all, and we'll see y'all again tomorrow at 10 o'clock live at her house, Lord willing. And be sure to count your blessings, and thank you again, each one of you, for your love and support. We appreciate it. Bye. We love you.